Okay, now any questions on the example? Now, the reason that I showed it is not for you to remember different things, but there are certain things that the words that are used there and so on that you may want to learn, and I will prepare you an exercise question actually and distribute it, well, and send it through email this weekend to simply write the steps of the process that the guy is doing. Okay, this is just as an exercise. And of course, you may want to see the video a few times more. It's very short, so it's very convenient and easy. Now, next step is my favorite. Okay, anybody who knows how to cook rice? Okay. Anybody doesn't know how to cook rice? Actually, I should have asked it that way. Oh my God. Okay, so you should be the ones who are spoon-fed. Huh? In their lives. Okay. Now, we're going to see a few videos. This is just to enjoy ourselves on different types of preparing rice. And then we're going to talk a little bit about it. Of course, I want you to be observant in what they are saying. You're going to see that there are a number of common things that they are saying, but they do it different ways. In other words, there is a huge set of alternatives, and among those set of alternatives, they select the ones that they tried probably, and they think that it's the best. And hopefully after that, I will explain you how I prepare rice. Okay, used to prepare rice. Okay. Now, let's start with the with Laura's way.
Just like that, and it's really important. Now this is really where you make it or you break it with rice. However much rice you use, you have to use double the amount in liquid. So I'm using 1 cup of rice today, so I want 2 cups of liquid. Now instead of using water, I like to use flavor into my rice as it cooks. So I do half stock, beef, or chicken.
Okay, stock means that you have juice of a certain, usually it is a meat, or it can be chicken, or it can be a vegetarian juice as well, but it's usually called stock. So instead of like clear water, you have stock, which is basically to give some flavor. This is what they do in restaurants actually all the time. We don't cook that way. Most of us don't cook that way at home, but in restaurants they put more flavor in it. Okay.
Garlic and lime beef tips, garlic and lemon beef tips. So I'm doing half beef broth and half water. So we have 2 cups of liquid here all together. All right, let's move to the stove and start cooking. Now I put our liquid in the saucepan and I can come up to a boil, and this is over medium high heat. Now another tip, you want to salt it, just like you would pasta. Well, not as much, but it's a much smaller amount. And I'm going to drizzle just ever so lightly a little bit, a teaspoon or so of olive oil, and that just keeps the grains from sticking together. And now we're going to add in our rice. And you only use a fork when you cook rice. You never want to use a wooden spoon or anything like that, because otherwise it kind of mushes it together, and a fork will like kind of lines it up, you know, gets nice and fluffy. So now immediately you want to turn it down to a medium-low, simmer, cover it, and it's going to cook, well, mine cooks for about 12 minutes, but you want to check your packaging because every rice is different. And after, remember, don't peek it, don't stir, nothing until it's cooked through, and then it'll come back, and that's what it looks like when it's done. Isn't that amazing? I just
Okay, this is called regular rice. It's not sticky. In other words, it's supposed to be not sticky. It's a little bit sticky, actually. We don't like that, actually. Am I right? Sticky rice, we don't like that. Okay. This is the worst part. Okay. At 5 o'clock, this is the worst part for you. Okay. So, Laura, the kitchen, I think you have different videos from Laura. So, if you want to learn something, she is very quick. And it's very easy, actually. Her way of cooking things is very easy. So, you can use the same website, actually. Okay. Let's watch another one. This is called the sticky rice. Korean and Japanese style. What if your fingers are large or small? We don't know that. The music should have been live, actually. This is sticky rice, definitely sticky. You cannot separate each from each other. Yeah, it's like comes in pulp. This is the style around the world that is most frequently used, because usually Chinese rice is very similar as well. So you have almost half of the world population eating rice like this. But you have the nice food around. It's like bread there, actually, in a way. Okay. Now, let's look at the third one. This is supposedly closest to my style. This is the one that you may want to do yourself. It is closer to our taste. Italian.
Viewers, and welcome to our kitchen. I'm Sonia, and today we'll be making rice pilaf. Rice pilaf has its origins in Turkish cuisine, but it's used throughout Middle Eastern cooking. It's a perfect side dish for meat, fish, or vegetables, and can be used as a filling as well. Let's see what we'll need. 3 to 4 cups of light broth, 1.5 cups of long grain rice, such as basmati, 1 onion, 5 tablespoons of butter, a stick of cinnamon, and 4 or 5 cloves. Let's make our rice pilaf. The first thing to do is to rinse the rice with cold water. Then drain the rice, and then let it dry a bit. In a pot over low heat.
She's very nervous.
And let it soften just until it becomes transparent.
Why do we do this? So that the rice is not going to be sticky. Okay? If you put oil and do this process, it's not going to be sticky.
The cloves, and lastly, the rice. Turn the heat up a bit and fry the rice well. Be sure to mix well to coat every grain. And then you can add the broth to cover the rice.
After this, my cousin is going to be selling rice outside to you if you want. Any style. Okay?
Now just cover the pot with a tightly fitting cover and leave the rice to cook for about 18 to 20 minutes. At this point, the rice doesn't need to be moved or stirred. Just check it after about 15 minutes to be sure it's not completely dry to prevent the rice from scorching. But other than that, simply leave it to cook. You can also cook the rice in the oven. Do everything the same, but after you add the broth, cover the pot and put it in an oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 18 to 20 minutes according to the type of rice you're using.
Compared to the Korean rice, it's very scientific, isn't it? Like 15 minutes this Fahrenheit and so on.
After about 18 minutes, our rice pilaf is cooked. This is only a base pilaf recipe. There are tons of variations, for example, using different spices such as saffron, turmeric, cardamom, etc. This, of course, will change the flavor, but can also color the rice a deep golden yellow, depending on the spices that you use. It's useful to know exactly how much liquid you should use for different quantities of rice.
Okay. I think this is sufficient. I believe that we got the idea. Now, we have seen 3 types, and if you check the YouTube videos, YouTube clips, you have probably at least 50 more. Okay? Some of them are harder to understand, some of them are very long and so on, but there are at least 50 more, and I'm not a very good searcher in the YouTube region because I don't like seeing those and so on. But at least I'm sure that there will be another 500. I'm sure that there will be. Now, the idea is that eventually what's the purpose here? The purpose is to get some calories and to eat something and to have some taste. And so that you're going to have a good taste and at the same time get the calories. So that's the objective. Am I right? So that's something that you can measure because you can measure the calories. You can also measure the pleasure that you got by eating that rice. You can give a number in between 1 and 10 like the wine connoisseurs do. The wine people, they give a number actually to the taste. So you can do that for rice actually. There exists something for rice as well, for everything actually. So you can actually, it is very measurable. But the question here is, of course, the following. So now I will go back to my lecture notes. Okay. Now, why are we interested in this? Oops, next one. Okay. Now, it's obvious that we have a large number of alternatives existing. Everybody said it themselves, actually. They said that there are different ways of cooking it. By the way, what is my favorite way? Mine is very simple. I fry the rice without putting it in any water. So I simply take the rice out of its package, fry it, put some, well, I used to put some salt. I don't put salt anymore. Okay? But fry it with a reasonable oil. But usually I would prefer to have it butter, okay, which gives the taste. So you have the salt also. And then put water, which is not necessarily as much as they put, less than that, what they actually propose. I put 1.5 times the amount of rice as water. And then use very high temperatures to cook it. Once it reaches the cooking level, I turn it off almost to the lowest possible temperature. Let it wait for 20 minutes. Let it cook for 20 minutes. and then turn everything off, and I wait for another, and I place a paper towel at the top, and then wait for another 10-15 minutes. Of course, once you do that, you're going to get very good taste. You can do the same thing by adding up different ingredients as well. Like I add, for example, eggplant, patlıcan. Okay? You can do it with various different things. Now, the question here is, there are large number of alternatives. Everybody has his or her own way of doing it. Now, but you can see that there are certain common actions that are taking place in each of the 3 videos. What are those common actions? I'm going to call it decisions from this time on. Okay? Because those are the decisions that we have to make before we go further. What is the duration of frying? Well, it can be 0. It means that I'm not going to fry it. But if you fry it, there should be a time associated with that frying. What is the duration of boiling, and what is the intensity of heat that one should use? What is the quantity of water to use? What is the cooking duration with low heat? Okay, there is a cooking duration. What is the waiting time before you actually serve it? This very simple process of rice cooking actually has billions of decisions associated with that. I excluded some of them, which are more details. Of course, what type of butter are you going to use? What type of oil are you going to use? So on and so forth. But these are, I think, common in all the 3 videos. Now, is it worthwhile to analyze this? Well, if you are doing it at home, probably it's not worthwhile. Because you're going to kill the cat before you can prepare anything for the cat. Okay? You don't want to do that. In other words, you don't want to exaggerate the thing that you are doing at home. You are getting pleasure out of it if you are cooking something. You don't want to make computations, calculations, and so on. Now, what happens if we're talking about a catering firm? You prepare rice for 10,000 portions every day. Then it becomes serious. Now, how about in military? Okay? Millions of hungry guys all around, and it is cooked from the same place usually. So usually the kitchens cook to, the same food is cooked everywhere in different kitchens, but it's exactly the same food. Now, each time if you use 1 liter of water more than you need to use, okay, for each small pan, you are probably wasting a lot of water. Forget about the cost of it. I mean, it is harm for the environment. Okay? What is the energy that you are using? You are using some energy to do this. If you are using at home, doesn't matter, because you are either going to spend 0.03 Turkish kuruş or 0.04 Turkish kuruş at most. The amount is not important. But what if you are doing it 10,000 times every hour? Okay, it becomes a serious business. So, and it becomes a complex business. Then you have problem of coordinating, problem of making sure that they do it the same way, and so on and so forth. So first of all, we have to understand that industrial engineering exists because there are complex problems. Now, the caterer's problem is a complex problem. It's not a simple problem. And there are a large number of decisions that has to be taken, including how to cook rice. Okay? Now, I'm not suggesting that taste is not important. Okay? I'm assuming that a number of different types of cooking is going to end up with similar tastes. Or different tastes, but with similar quality. Okay? So it can be different tastes. So the important thing here is that we need to understand how these decisions are made in order to go further with rice cooking and really make a professional life out of rice cooking. Okay? So this is the reason why we need to watch. Now, were you able to depict these type of questions, actions that were taken by different chefs in different clips? Now, if we explain the process of rice cooking, how are we going to explain the process of rice cooking? Well, we can explain it by, I'm going to fry 13 minutes under this heat using this type of butter. And this is going to be how I'm going to boil. This will be the intensity of heat. You can see the steps of the process, and this is actually a summary of those steps. Those steps are, you can hear me probably. Those steps are taken by everybody, all the chefs, in a different way. You took the similar steps when you decided your department in a different way. Everybody had his or her own touch. But if we are doing it for a business, catering, we are going to decide on a certain touch. We're going to decide on a certain way of doing it, and then we're going to pursue, make sure that it is done in the same way. So if you are working as an industrial engineer in a catering firm, okay, you have to make sure that the rules of cooking rice, you might have 5 different types of rice that you cook, is going to be set, known, so that there won't be any mistakes. You don't want to make a mistake when you are cooking for 10,000 people. Okay? So everything is going to be set. It's not going to be ad hoc. So the process of rice cooking is going to be well specified. Now let's go a little bit further. Let's say that I only cook rice, but I have 17 different types of rice that I cook. And I am making life out of this. So it means that I'm feeding 100,000 people every day. The largest caterer in Ankara, I think around Ankara, has a capacity of 25,000. So there are caterers actually in Ankara which serves 25,000 customers every day. They give the food to universities, to different organizations, so on and so forth. Okay? So now there are some other decisions that I should give probably. Did you look at the type of equipment that they used while cooking? They were different, am I right? The last one was like more Italian style. Everything was nicer. The sticky rice one, the middle one, was sort of a very old-looking pan. The ones that are similar to the ones that you have in the dorm. Okay? Like the old-looking one. Because people usually bring the second-hand ones there. It's not usually new. But you can see that that is also important as well. I brought, for example, specific type of pans that I bought 40 years ago, almost 30-something years ago, to Turkey, in order to be able to make sure that I will be using them. I used them for several years. I'm not using them anymore. But pans are important. Now, the more you pay for the equipment, of course, the worse it will be for the general cost. But those are important decisions as well. So I am in the catering business. I have to make sure that what kind of stove should I use? What type of energy should I use? What is the equipment that I should use? Okay? There is a new building which is built in front of this engineering building. That's our new cafeteria. The kitchen utensils, the kitchen equipment is prepared by a specific firm. Okay? And it is a huge competition, actually. It's not an easy thing. And there is a huge competition in that. So different alternatives. So you have to make sure that you select those. Now, how are we going to decide on that? Is it related to rice cooking? Of course, you know that you are going to cook rice on that equipment. Okay? So the way that you select the equipment is going to be important. That I will call long-term decision. Whereas how I am going to decide on the duration of frying is short-term. Am I right? It's like immediately. The other one is long-term. It will have consequences for years. We're going to see more examples of this. This is a simple example, but something that we shouldn't miss. Now, another thing that I missed on purpose, of course, is type of rice that you want to use. There are different types of rice that you can find in the market. Each one is going to have a different reaction to the decisions that you give here. So it is important that you understand that the decisions are related to the type of rice. Very complicated, actually, if you come to think of it. If you are making your life, if you are earning your life but with rice cooking, this is a very challenging thing to decide. How am I going to do? Moreover, you have to make sure that it has some kind of a quality, otherwise nobody is going to eat your rice. Am I right? Okay. So this is actually one example that we are going to keep in mind, and I will remind you about that example later in the semester. Now, what did we learn from these clips? Very simple. We learned a few things. The first thing that we learned is we have to have a complex structure so that it will be something reasonable, something that has a certain end, economic end. Okay? So caterers are our interest, but rice cooking can also be our interest. Our approach is going to handle the rice cooking problems, so on and so forth. Now, we're going to work on these type of examples more, but this is more or less the idea. Questions? Okay. Now, final set of examples. Now, I am going to show you 3 clips on the airport operations. Anybody who haven't been to any of the airports? Okay. Anybody who haven't been to any of the airports? You didn't fly? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. This is good, because when I was a student, if somebody asked me this question, there would be only one hand there saying that I took a flight 2 years ago with my friends and so on. Now it is much different. We're going to consider airport operations. So I will assume that you are familiar with airports. But you might, if you are not, and I will try to answer those questions later on. But my presumption is that you are familiar with airports. Now, we're going to see 3 videos from 3 different angles of airports. And so we will try to create some knowledge on airport operations by observation, by our own experience. But if you are not experienced in airport operations, I urge you to go ahead and look at the video, other videos in YouTube. There are other videos which explains these in more detail. In the sections tomorrow and Friday, we are going to discuss the following questions. Okay? We're going to discuss these questions. So let us read those. What happens after a plane reaches the gate? What are possible performance measures? What are the improvement ideas? What are the typical decisions that should be made in order to be able to operate airports? Okay, so these are the things that we're going to talk tomorrow. But now let's watch the videos, and I'll try to give you some side information as well. Okay, any questions on this? Okay, so let's start with the taxing. This is a little bit boring because it's very slow. Okay. So if I am not mistaken, this is Atlanta Airport. So it is a very large airport. So the plane has landed, and it is going to its gate, looking for a gate. Okay? Now, what I urge you to do is, I urge you to look at around. I mean, what's happening there? Okay? I think it's important to look what's going on around. Loading, unloading of cargo. Some traffic in the airport, not passengers, of course, we're not allowed to be there. What's that tall building there? Okay, it's this Kule, of course. It's called air control. We're going to look at the airport from their eyes as well. A number of waiting caterers, cleaners, cargo carriers, they are all waiting there. Maintenance people, ready to jump on the plane and do their job. And now the customers in the plane are getting anxious. Let's come to this gate and leave the plane immediately. This is the worst part of the travel, actually. Everybody is tired. You want to get out of the plane. Okay, it's getting dark, so that you have to make sure that you understand what's going on around. Okay. I think we got the idea. Let me go a little bit forward. Okay. So we entered the gate now. Okay, now you can see what is around. A lot of people are helping the plane to go. It is on its spot. There is a designated spot for each plane, so that the tube is going to come, reach the plane, and pick up the passengers. Okay, so this is actually one way of looking at the airport. Plane has landed, there is huge runways, and so on and so forth. Okay, the second one. Now let's look at the passenger view. This is the passenger view. You can see the same thing as you can see while you are in the plane. Actually, while you are in the plane, you don't see much. This is basically more. Now, passengers are walking in the gate. They are trying to reach the gate. We see a large number of services around, shops around, restrooms, eating places. It's like a shopping center, am I right? Yeah, looks very much like shopping center. Each of them is a different operation. Each of them has its own processes. Any shop or any shop that you see around. If I am not mistaken, this should be Hong Kong. Yeah. Cover your eyes when you see a name. You're not supposed to have this type of advertisement here. No house, no house. Okay. Okay, let's go a little bit further. We're still in the gate, but now we came to the parts where there are no shops. There are lots of places for the passengers to sit and wait. And get some support from the personnel. How many seats should we have in each gate, do you think? Is it an important issue? Of course, yeah. It turns out to be very key, actually. This is something that you can observe here. Announcements. Can you imagine the size of the whole operation? It's huge. Think about Istanbul Airport, which is a very large airport compared to the other airports in Turkey. It's a huge operation. And there is a group of people who are overseeing all the operations. Do you think that they have industrial engineers there? No. They have, yeah. They have. Okay. Now, let's look at the whole operation in a different way. Okay, now let's be more safety. Think about, let's consider safety issues and control issues. We're talking about planes, so it is more dangerous than cars. Okay? If everything was with bicycles, life would be very simple. We wouldn't have industrial engineers all around. But we have automobiles and we have planes. And planes are more dangerous. Safety issues are important. So our final clip is on the control of everything. The airport, the air traffic control unit, the kule, as you call it, castle in Turkey, if we directly translate, that unit actually oversees all the movement of the planes. So now let us look at everything from their perspective. But you have, okay.
Each number on the screen represents an aircraft, and the passengers' lives depend on your careful, swift, decisive, constant instruction. Most air traffic controllers are employed and trained by the federal government. The pay and benefits are excellent, but the stress is high. Whether you work in an airport control tower, make sure planes stay a safe distance apart, on the ground, taking off and landing, a terminal area control facility, or an en route control center monitoring travel through invisible highways in the sky. You must speak clearly, work in a team, and be constantly on the alert. Safety is the priority, but air traffic controllers also work to administer delays.
Concorde. It's an old plane.
It creates an intricate airborne ballet, responding to weather, mechanical difficulties, and all the little things that constantly cause big problems for prearranged flight plans. People seeking employment in this challenging career take a federal civil service test and are examined in ways that measure their ability to cope with mental stress over long hours. A background as a pilot, navigator, or military controller increases your chances of being accepted for the Federal Aviation Administration Academy, where air traffic controllers are trained.
Okay. Now, this example is very interesting, the air traffic control. It's very much like the nurses that they have in some hospitals. You go to the emergency section, you have an emergency issue, you think, and then somebody there dispatches you to different places, or somebody says you have to wait there. This is what the air traffic controllers are doing, actually. Planes are arriving. They give priority to different planes. They have a certain route, way of doing it. And they let some of the planes wait. Waiting for the plane means that they are going to take some large tours at the top of the airport. But this is very similar. Again, another example would be the host at a restaurant. If you go to a very high-scaled, upper-scaled restaurant, they are going to say, you wait here, we're going to prepare your table. And, well, that's what they will say. And that is also, somebody is controlling all the seats. If it is empty, new ones are coming in, so on and so forth. So this is a different view of the airport. And nowadays, actually, it turns out that in the old times, planes were only allowed to fly in some designated routes. Whereas in these days and in the coming 10 years, that will be completely free. So a plane is going to be able to select the route that it will take from point A to point B. This is going to make the life of these controllers more difficult because they have to make sure that there are no two planes on the same time at the same location. Okay? So those are the things that are very interesting. Now, when it comes to the role of industrial engineering, we have role in all the aspects of this airline business. And we're going to see how that role is going to come, and hopefully we're going to discuss it in the tomorrow and on Friday. I'm hoping that you will come to those sections by at least thinking about what are the answers of the questions that I asked in the previous slide. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow and on Friday in sections.